The moment I said the word prenup, the man I loved looked at me like he'd never seen me before. Our picture-perfect engagement turned into a total nightmare. He accused me of planning for our failure, of not really loving him. In one conversation, the future I had pictured just shattered. And I was left wondering, am I the asshole for wanting to protect my future? This wasn't just a fight. It was a crack in the foundation of our relationship, and it made me question everything. Before that conversation, our story was a real-life fairy tale. We met in the most normal way, through a friend, but what we built felt anything but ordinary. He was kind, funny, and had this optimistic view of the world that perfectly balanced my practical side. We fell in love so easily. It was this slow, comfortable slide into a partnership that just felt like home. The engagement was perfect. It was a crisp autumn day, we were on a hike, and the leaves were all these brilliant shades of red and orange. No big, flashy gesture. Just him, on one knee, with a simple, beautiful ring he'd designed himself. He talked about our future, building a life, a family, forever. And I believed every single word. For weeks, we lived in this happy little bubble. We looked at wedding venues, tasted cakes, and argued for hours about whether to get a band or a DJ. We talked about the kids we'd have, the places we'd go, how we'd grow old. Yeah, he made less money than I did, but it was never, ever an issue. We were a team. What was mine was his, and his was mine. Or so I thought. I was so sure of us, so certain we wanted the same things, that I never dreamed one word could make it all fall apart. The irony. I thought bringing up a prenup was a responsible first step in building that forever he talked about on the mountain. I saw it as taking care of us, not betraying him. I could not have been more wrong. I thought I picked the perfect time. It was a quiet Tuesday night. We'd just finished dinner, we were relaxed, and we were already talking about the wedding budget. It seemed like the natural next step to talk about our finances more seriously. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. So, I started, since we're on the subject of finances, I was thinking it might be a good idea for us to look into a prenuptial agreement. The change in him was instant. And it was terrifying. His smile just fell. It was replaced by this look of complete shock and hurt. He stared at me for a few seconds, like my words were in another language. A prenup, he finally whispered. Why on earth would you want that? I tried to explain. I laid out all the logic that had made perfect sense in my head. I told him it wasn't about not having faith in us, it was the opposite. It was about dealing with the messy, practical stuff now, while we were strong, so it couldn't bite us later. I even used the insurance analogy, you get it, but you hope you never, ever have to use it. I explained it wasn't just to protect my assets, it could also protect him from any of my debts. But he wasn't listening. He just heard prenup, and to him, that meant exit plan. So you're already planning your escape route, he said, his voice dripping with a bitterness I'd never heard from him. You want to marry me, but you're already preparing for us to get a divorce. That's what this is. I tried to argue, to tell him that wasn't it at all, but he was already spiraling. The hurt was turning to anger. Is this because I make less than you? You think I'm some kind of gold digger you have to protect yourself from? Is that what you think of me? That question just hung there in the air, thick and suffocating. He wasn't just hurt anymore. He felt judged and belittled. My attempt at being a responsible partner had somehow turned into an attack on his character, and proof that I didn't truly love him. The foundation I thought was solid rock now felt like it was crumbling into sand. That conversation was the beginning of the end. It was like a slow-acting poison that seeped into every part of our relationship. The prenup became this ghost that haunted every happy moment. He'd bring it up at the worst times, at a nice dinner, when we were out with friends, or late at night when we were trying to fall asleep. Each time, it was the same accusation: "You don't trust me. You're betting on us to fail." Our communication, once so easy, became a minefield. I was constantly walking on eggshells, terrified I'd say the wrong thing and set him off again. The joy of wedding planning was gone, replaced by this constant knot of anxiety in my stomach. How were we supposed to be planning a celebration of our union, when that union felt like it was falling apart? He was obsessed with the income difference. No matter how many times I told him it wasn't the reason, he was convinced. He thought that by asking for a prenup, I was holding my salary over his head, branding him as the lesser partner. Before, I never thought twice about paying for a big dinner or a weekend trip. Now, every time I pulled out my card, I could see the resentment in his eyes. He saw it as more evidence for his case against me. In his mind, I wasn't the woman he loved anymore. I was the woman who was just waiting for him to leave so she could protect her money. I was losing him, and I had absolutely no idea how to get him back. If you've ever had a tough conversation about money nearly tear a relationship apart, or if you're just trying to figure out love and finances, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about getting through these kinds of tough moments together. I felt so lost. The love of my life was looking at me like I was the enemy, and our future was just dissolving. Desperate, I started doing some research. I needed to understand what a prenup actually was, beyond the ugly reputation. And what I found really surprised me. First off, they're not as taboo as they used to be, especially for millennials and Gen Z. While estimates suggest that between 15% to 20% of married couples have one, some polls show about half of US adults are open to them, seeing them as a practical tool for financial planning. It's not just for the super-rich anymore. I learned that a good prenup is supposed to protect both people. It can shield one partner from the other's student loans or business debts. And for the partner who earns less, it can actually create security. It can set fair terms for spousal support, or ensure that non-financial contributions, like leaving a career to raise kids, are valued in a split. Most importantly, for a prenup to be fair and legally binding, it requires total, honest financial disclosure from both people. And both partners need the opportunity to get their own independent lawyers to represent them. This wasn't a one-sided demand. It was supposed to be a team effort, a conversation built on mutual respect. Reading all of this gave me a little flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, if I could show him this, not as my idea, but as a fair process that could help us both, we could fix this. Armed with this new info, I knew I had to try one last time. But it had to be different. I asked him to set aside an evening, no distractions. This time, I started with my heart, not my head. "I love you," I said, looking him right in the eye. "And I feel like I'm losing you. The last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt you. My goal was never to plan for an ending, but to build a stronger beginning." I made sure to use we and us. I explained what I'd learned, that this could be a tool for us to build a financial blueprint for our marriage. "This isn't you versus me," I pleaded. "This is about how we can create a future where we both feel secure and respected. It means we both have to be completely honest about our finances, and we both get our own lawyers to make sure it's fair for each of us." I told him I finally understood why he felt like I was accusing him of being a gold digger, and how awful that must have felt. But a fair prenup would actually prove the opposite. It would make our partnership official and protect him, too. He actually listened this time. He was quiet for a long time, just searching my face. For a second, I really thought I'd gotten through. But then, he slowly shook his head, and his face hardened again. "I hear you," he said, his voice completely flat. "But it doesn't change how it feels. It feels like you don't believe in for better or for worse. You believe in for better or for a predetermined settlement. I can't start a marriage on that foundation. If you need a contract to feel safe with me, then I'm not the right guy for you." And right then, I knew. It was over. We officially ended the engagement a week later. The fighting was over. There was just this quiet, heartbreaking acceptance. Giving him back the ring was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. The whole life we had dreamed up was gone, and the grief was just overwhelming. For months, I replayed that first conversation over and over, torturing myself with what I could have said differently. I kept asking myself, was I the asshole? But with some time and distance, I started to see things clearly. The prenup conversation didn't ruin our relationship. It just held a mirror up to it. It showed a fundamental difference in how we saw trust, money, and partnership. For him, love had to be a blind leap of faith. For me, love and practical planning could go hand in hand. He saw my need for financial honesty as a betrayal. I saw his refusal to even talk about it as a major red flag. The painful truth is, if your relationship can't survive an honest conversation about money, it probably won't survive a lifetime of actual problems. The whole thing was devastating, but it taught me a huge lesson about what I need and what my non-negotiables are in a partner. It taught me that real intimacy has to include financial intimacy. So, am I the asshole? No. In the end, as much as it hurt, asking for that prenup saved me from a marriage that was built on a fragile misunderstanding. It taught me that standing up for your own financial well-being isn't unromantic, it's an act of self-respect. A real partnership should be strong enough to handle the uncomfortable conversations. My story had a heartbreaking ending, but the lesson was empowering. Financial literacy and the guts to talk about money aren't just for boardrooms, they are essential for building a life with someone. True security in a relationship doesn't come from ignoring the hard stuff, it comes from having the strength to get through it together. What would you have done? Have you ever had the prenup talk? How did it go? Share your story in the comments. I read all of them. And if you know someone who's going through this, please share this with them. You're not alone.